It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the day OS 13.1 came out, and iPadOS as well. We'll talk about all the new features, talk a little bit more about the new phones, about the new watches. Jim Dalrymple's here from Loop Insight. Dave Hamilton's here from MacObserver. Andy Anako's here from his local library. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 680, recorded Tuesday, September 24th, 2019. Talk to the Lamp. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Kaptara. Find the right tools to make an informed software decision for your business. Visit Kaptara's free website at kaptara.com/MacBreak. And by Worldwide Technology. Worldwide Technology's Advanced Technology Center is like no other testing and research lab in the world, with more than $500 million of equipment, including OEMs like NetApp, and it's virtual, so you can access it 24/7. To learn more and get insights into all that it offers, go to wwt.com/twit. And by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. They make the home buying process work for you. Their award-winning client service and support will help you every step of the way. Get started online today at rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show that covers the latest news from Apple. Has Apple been up to anything of late? Anything going on at all? Joining us to talk about it, Andy Anako from the Chicago Public Library. No, the Worcester Public Library. I don't know what library you're in.
I'm supporting my local public library.
His local public library from the Carnegie Library in beautiful downtown Bangkok. Nice to see you, Andrew. No hat today.
Because I got a haircut, and so I'm not. The reason why I usually wear the hat is because, like, usually I get this really bad poofy thing happening, like up top there. And for weeks and weeks and weeks, I would try to fix it before the show, but before getting desperate and just grabbing a hat and putting it on.
But you're famous. Your trademark is your big old fedora that you always wear. Do you not wear that anymore?
Oh no, I do. I just I realized that I didn't want it to become a thing. Where if I ever showed, I didn't want to become such an iconic thing that if I ever showed up without it, people would be saying, "Hey, why aren't you wearing your hat?"
Yeah.
I've worn a hat. I've worn a hat like that. I'm very, very glad that I have documentary evidence via a friend of mine that even when I was like 17 or 18, I was wearing a hat just like that. It's just like my favorite kind of hat. And so there was a time like about 10 years ago where I realized that maybe I should take it off when I'm giving like talks and stuff like that because it's not. It's impolite.
Is that a fedora? Is that actually a fedora? I don't know if I named it.
It's not a fedora. It's technically like an Australian rancher's hat, like a cowboy hat sort of thing.
I like that.
But I love it because it's not terribly expensive. It's like waterproof. It has this wire around the brim so that you can always adjust it the way you want. And for someone who travels a lot, I can stuff it in the overhead bin and it can get crushed by bags. And then while I'm waiting to deplane, I can just spend just a couple of minutes just sort of fussing with it, and it's right back to where it was before. I have a box of them. It's like whenever they stop making these, I want to have a 3-year margin to find something I like as much as this one.
Well, I'm very pleased to see that Jim Dalrymple did wear his beard today.
Yes.
From the Loop, loopinsight.com. Hi, Jim.
How are you, Leo?
I'm great. How's rock and roll been treating you?
Rock and roll is great.
Always the best. Also joining us, hey, great to have the MacObserver here, Dave Hamilton. Dave, good to see you.
Hey. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you, too. Yeah, it's good to be here. Always a pleasure. I love it.
Renee is in New York City for a special meeting of all the iMore folk. So he's missing out on today's show.
As is Lori
Gill, because she's at iMore as well. I have in my hot little hands an iPad that's about to be converted to iPadOS. Today's the day. Apple pushed up their 13.1 release for both iPhone and iPad, and today's the day. So I'm going to push the button now and convert it. If you're not yet using 13.1, use it, especially if you're on 13.0 with your new iPhone. You use it. You really want to make that upgrade.
The 13 has a bunch of bugs to the extent that if you had not upgraded it on the day of, I would have recommended that you wait a few days because they did push it up. Originally, it was scheduled for, was it end of month or even later than that? And then we suddenly found out that no, it's going to be here like just after the weekend.
By the way, just after the weekend was when your iPhone was supposed to arrive, Andy Anako.
No, just before the weekend, I had.
You shouldn't mess with UPS. That's my new motto.
FedEx. My UPS. They're still lovely people. It's the FedEx people. I got my review hardware. The iPhone 11 and the Apple Watch 5.
Nice.
Actually, Apple PR was nice. They gave me in Patriots and Red Sox colors, which was a nice thing of them. But so I just have some advice on under the guise of me blowing off some steam here. So my radio spot was at like 12:15 or something in the afternoon, which is great. Okay, well, by 10:30 that's going to be cutting it really, really close. And so Apple paid extra to have it delivered by 8:30. So of course, like by like 7:30, I was like literally on a bench, like on the sidewalk outside my house, like waiting for the FedEx truck. Of course, and they didn't show up. And by like 9:05, it's like, okay, if I don't leave, I can either wait and then maybe catch a later train and hopefully still make my show, or the sensible thing to do is to leave now at 9:05. And suffice to say that A, there was no, I'd not seen a FedEx person. B, when I left, there was no FedEx tag on the door, and it turned out that the FedEx driver just didn't even try to deliver it. He said that they logged it as, we tried to deliver at 8:22 a.m. but no one was there to sign for it, which was BS. Okay. So that's so much for Friday. So I thought, well, okay, maybe it'll be Saturday. And so Apple PR was being really, I hate that they were doing all this extra work on my behalf because of FedEx, but so we'll tell you what, if they're having a problem like reaching my house, why don't we, so I don't have to wait in the house all day on Saturday, why don't we just have them deliver it to the Walgreens that's sort of nearby, like even within walking distance, because they have one of those secure lockers where, and you sign for it. So great. So I get a notification saying just it'll be there after 3 p.m. Just go there and like we bring a photo ID and boom, boom, get there. And it's not there at 4 o'clock. Now, the reason for that one was that I checked the tracking and it said, well, we tried to deliver, but he wasn't there to sign for it, or the business was closed. And it turned, but that wasn't what happened. What had happened was that they're not, the driver is not allowed to drop off a package in that locker if it has lithium batteries in it. This was something that they didn't tell Apple about this. They didn't tell me about this. So finally I just said, look, just hold it at the depot. I will come and pick it up. And so it worked, even though I thought as I was opening the box, I was like, what are the chances that just to put a cherry on the top of this, they opened up the box and they put in like a boxing glove on a giant like iron metal spring to just punch me in the head while I open it. So what I'm saying is that if you are arranging for deliveries of tech stuff and particularly Apple stuff, don't count on 8:30 a.m. delivery. I've since heard from a lot of people that this happens all the time. That I don't even necessarily want to blame the driver. It could be that they're under some punishing quota that they can't possibly meet. So I don't want to necessarily blame you don't want to yell at the desk clerk for a problem that was caused by policy. But nonetheless, you will pay extra for 8:30 a.m. delivery, but don't count on it. Maybe it'll happen, but don't count on it. Also, don't use those drop-off pickup centers if it has a lithium battery in it, because again, maybe they won't let you do that. Really, the only sure way to make sure you will get it at a time that you can arrange is if they hold it at the depot for you. Oh well. Or you could do what Jim Dalrymple did and go to the Apple campus and get his.
Jeez. Yeah, that was much easier. I didn't have to deal with any of that.
I can't afford the $1,000, $1,200 shipping fee of flying out there and staying in a hotel for a night.
It's shipping you instead of the phone. You're right. That's a good, excellent point. So, Dave, do you have the new iPhone yet or not?
Of course. Of course. Yeah. We've got several of them here. Yes.
So, what do you think?
Screen's nice.
It is a really good screen.
The cameras are fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm really blown away by how well those cameras
Don't you love the wide angle?
the wide angle's great, and when you move from camera to camera, you don't notice it. Like the software totally takes care of that for you.
Yeah.
It's just so smooth. Yeah. And it really, they've done a nice job with it. I mean, I know that was sort of the thing that they're pushing this year, but they delivered. I think so. And the screen, it's killer.
DisplayMate gave it an A+, saying it's the best screen we've ever seen. Although they did admit, so there'll probably be better screens eventually. So we're going to have to change our rating system now. But for now,
let's hope there's better screens someday. Yeah.
For now. This screen is top of the line, very bright. They liked HDR. They liked night shift. They also like the super dim setting, down to 2 nits, which is about that is really 2 nits is dark, very dark. True tone they liked. The diamond subpixels, that's kind of unusual. It's used on. We've gone a long way from. Remember when OLED displays used to have pentile pixels? They were just awful. We've gone a long way from that. They said the viewing angle is not perfect. There is a little color shift, but still very good. Power efficiency is good. We know that. Power display efficiency has increased 15%. We know that because the battery life is mind-boggling. I mean, it's been a lot of things combined. They say the primary goal of this display technology shootout series has always been to publicize and promote display excellence. Well, we got an excellent one, A+, and this is on the Pro Max, obviously, not the 11.
Yeah. I just think it's great that we're at the level of sophistication now where it used to be that if you wanted to demonstrate that one panel was better than the other, you would put them side by side and compare. Now you really have to go to the spectrograms. You really have to go to the graphs to really see what each one of these panels is doing. I think it's wonderful for consumers that it's you have to get really deep into the budget level phones before you get a display that is anything less than really, really good.
What I also think is interesting is that a lot of times, certainly with Samsung, they don't value color accuracy particularly. In fact, they go for more of a punchy OLED. Apple, apparently, according to DisplayMate, calibrates each phone individually at the factory, and it supports not only a full gamut at RGB, sRGB, but it's also full gamut at P3, which is kind of amazing for a smartphone to be perfectly accurate. Is mind-boggling.
Well, look what they're doing with it, though. I mean, not only the pictures, but you also have the 4K 60 video, and
the video is amazing.
Yeah, they're just doing everything that they possibly can to make this generation of smartphones out of reach for the competitors. And I with the cameras in particular, I certainly think that they've done that.
Well, remember, we haven't seen the Pixel 4 yet. That's coming out October 15th. So Google, they compare it to almost a year old Google phone. So we'll see what Google could do with the Pixel 4, which is historically the Pixels have done very, very well.
Surely that's going to be very private and secure for its users.
Oh, come on. Yep. Come on. You're not buying into that old canard that somehow the iPhone is magically secure. Not anymore.
Come on, Leo. Don't embarrass yourself on your own show. Come on.
All right. I won't mention any 0 days or anything. I don't want to talk about anything.
There's a difference between 0-day stuff and the way your account is handled, right? I mean, certainly every operating system is going to suffer from some 0-day exploits. That's very different from we take your data and sell it out the back door, which one company does and another does not.
It's not Facebook, for crying out loud. Google does have some policies in place.
They do. They do.
They don't just take your data and sell it out the back door. That's absolutely not correct.
That's kind of unfair. But
that's fair.
They do. They do. No, they do absolutely monetize it, and you should be aware of that, and you should be concerned about that, depending on where your comfort level is. But on the balance, they have a smart assistant that is actually smart and actually assists you, whereas Siri is like, "Let me look." So you're saying it's basically a speech version of "Let me Google that for you."
They just openly sell it out the front door.
It's the front door. That's right, Jim. Thank you for that. That's right.
It's also not really fair to say they're selling your data. They are selling advertising and aggregate selling your data. Google, you can't go to Google and say, I'd like to know where Leo Laporte lives.
Yes, I can. It's very easy if you just go to Google and I say, where does Leo Laporte live? It might actually tell me.
But it's not okay. But it's not. Okay.
That's not Google telling you.
Google is not telling you.
I don't have to pay them for that.
And you can do that on the iPhone, too. If it works on an Android device, it works on the iPhone as well.
Yep.
That's true.
But I think it's unfair to say that they're somehow, like Facebook does, leaking your data just in general. But they do. Yes, everybody acknowledges that that's the trade-off. I'm not convinced that Apple is super private either. Their iCloud stuff isn't secure, as we know. We've seen that over and over again. If you're a foreign government, they're glad to hand over that data. Or even a United States government, they're glad to hand over that data. So I think it's, yes, absolutely, really.
I don't know.
Well, maybe they're not glad. I'm sorry. I should say they hand it over with a frown.
And a lot of resistance.
But they don't.
So
eventually, I hope Apple will make the iCloud trust no one encryption, end-to-end encrypted. It is not currently. And
no. It can't be if you want to access it in your web browser, right? Like iMessage can be, but we don't get iMessage on the web because Apple doesn't have the keys to decrypt our iMessages.
So Apple has chosen convenience over privacy. That's trade-offs companies make. And I think it's not fair to say, oh, Apple's somehow magically secure and no one else is. Apple, I think, probably does respect my privacy more because their business model is selling hardware.
It's not binary,
they're not
though.
magically
It's not
secure. They actually put work into it.
And they do put a lot of work into it, although I think you could make a strong case that Google puts some work into security as well.
Yeah. But it's not binary, right? It's a continuum between uber secure and uber convenient.
Now, we know Uber's not secure at all. That's a whole different...
Well, there's that. That's true. But like we could choose to live in a house that has no doors, no windows, and is just bricked from, ground to ceiling. But that's not convenient at all, right? Getting in and out is sort of difficult when you do that.
That's right.
So, it's a continuum, and I think Apple chooses a spot that's closer to secure than, let's just prioritize convenience. That said, they do a pretty good job of making security convenient with things like Face ID and, all of that stuff. They really work to make it so that I didn't used to put a passcode on my iPhone before Touch ID.
They deserve a lot of credit for, because you weren't alone, Dave. Most people did not put passcodes in their phone. It always surprised me when I'd see people just unlock their phone or, swipe up. And it was like,
I always did.
Really?
I always did, yeah.
Me too.
Yeah,
good for you.
I did. For me, it's only a 4-digit passcode, but I always put one in.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said you always just swiped up. You used the passcode, but we know the vast majority of iPhone users did not until maybe Touch ID. I can't remember exactly when Apple started making that. It's mandatory. You have to have a passcode and you have to have Face ID built in, and I think that's appropriate. And I think you can give Apple a lot of credit for nudging its users into a more secure space. That's one of many ways they do that. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they do. Go ahead.
I love one of the new features of iOS 13, and you'll see it on your new iPhone or as you upgrade, where it's telling me whenever an app is going out and getting my location and uploading it, it's telling me. I saw yesterday on I think it was on Reddit, somebody said, Map.me, Apple just told me, has sent my location 23 times to its server, and I haven't opened the application once in the last 24 hours. And to get that information and then to have a setting that says, you know what, only allow it to do this when the app is open or never allow that, that is absolutely a big boon to consumers. Google's copied that, I should point out. Google's now doing that in Android 10.
They had that. Well, they had that. Well, okay, I wouldn't say copied, but this is a priority that all companies are starting to face. Google, I think Google and Apple, because they have a sense of responsibility to their users. Facebook, because it's very expensive to have your CEO having to go to the Senate and
Yes.
having to go have meetings with the president. And if they want to make sure that they get to keep a hold of Instagram and WhatsApp, they're going to have to at least make a show of caring about what people do have with their data. But yeah, this is something that every single consumer is becoming more hip about. Fortunately, now we have the Congress getting more hip about it as well. We have 48 state senators and along with state district attorneys, including plus DC and Puerto Rico, getting together, just saying we are going to form a coalition to investigate how well Apple and Facebook and Google and everybody handle data, how well they compete. Because in 10 years' time, we're not going to see the same regulatory field that we have right now, which is a barren landscape where anybody can do anything and there are no repercussions.
By the way, speaking of copying, and by the way, Apple copies Google in their camera app. There's night mode. That's absolutely a copy of Google's night sight. But I think cross-copying is fine. I don't think that besmirches either one for Google to copy Apple or Apple to copy Google. Although Google, in the face of Apple launching Arcade, just launched Arcade and they even gave it a tab on the App Store. This is the Google Play. What is it called, Andy? I can't remember what they call it, but it's a feature.
I don't have it yet, but
for surprisingly interestingly chosen $4.99 a month, you get free access to a bunch of not just games but a bunch of apps as well on your Android device.
It's Google Play
Pass.
Pass. That's it. Thank you.
I was looking for it.
Let's be clear about night mode. Apple has been working on night mode and camera features like that for many years, as has everybody. Everybody wants better low light condition shots. So they didn't just copy night mode from
people want it
from Google.
And to Apple's credit, they did it right. They didn't rush into it, and the night mode is, I think, much better integrated into the operating system. Night mode initially in Android was a nightmare because you'd be in night mode, and all of a sudden some app would launch with a bright white screen. You go, here's a great image from The Verge. Google Maps has used your location 93 times in the background over the past 3 days. Do you want to allow this? Although, interesting article, it says this is why so many apps are now asking for Bluetooth access. That's how they're tracking you without using maps. Dunkin would like to use Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Why? Well, it turns out they've got a beacon in the store. And if Bluetooth is turned on, the store will know you're in a Dunkin. So that's just something.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
No,
if they're offering
it might give you a free
but it is
donut.
Good to know.
Yeah,
it is good to know.
It's a free donut.
Give you a free donut.
Free donut.
I have to admit, it puzzled me because my iPhone kept saying, hey, this would. I said, why does Macy's want Bluetooth? What is it doing? There are so many apps are now asking me for Bluetooth, so that's why.
Yeah. That's why we need regulation. If we have all of this is sort of negated, if you have the ability, if everyone who collects data and retains data has the responsibility of, if I contact Dunkin' Donuts and say, oh, by the way, any data you've collected off of this specific device, you're gonna erase it within 30 days, and they're required to do so or face a punishment of $10 per user per day, then we'll start to see actual control of your data. I think that most people, they're not necessarily concerned about their data being collected so much as, one, it being collected without their information or consent, and B, not having any control over that data once it's collected. So if you address those two, then I mean, imagine how many people use browsers that don't have ad tracker blocker plugins built in, which is, to me, is insane. It's like leaving your bike just leaning against a city railing without no lock on it. I would never use a browser without something that controls ad tracking. But people do that anyway. But people who do care, they need to have the ability to control that.
I think it's, I always wonder about this because I didn't care for a long time, and I've started to care a little bit more recently, and have taken steps to kind of protect myself, like using Firefox and so forth. But I wonder if the vast majority of normal users, do they know, and then B, do they care? What do you think, Jim? Do you think people know?
So I think people look at these stories about this and say, wow, that's terrible. I didn't know that would happen. Wait a minute, I got to go check in on Facebook.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So I think the average user views this as something that will never affect them because, well, I don't do much on Facebook, and this is just something for me. Nobody cares about hacking me, or nobody really sells ads to me. That's not what they see. Now, what I think ends up happening is that you get a group of people, like privacy people or tech people, that get really, and rightfully so, wound up about the privacy issues that are going on right now. And what happens with that is that they end up surrounding themselves with other people that think that way.
It's an echo
and
chamber.
They believe that they're making this huge monumental change, when in actual fact, they're not. They're just continuing to surround themselves with people that agree with their opinion on privacy and security. And the average people are going about their day on Facebook. And that's proven because Facebook continues to make billions, tens of billions of dollars a quarter.
I know.
So
I know.
In order for this monumental change that these people, and I praise them for their zeal in trying to fix a lot of these problems, I just don't think that it's working to the extent that they believe it's working. And in order to see it really work, what's going to need to happen is that you will need to see Facebook say, last quarter or a year ago quarter, we made $25 billion. This quarter, we made $5 billion. That would be
well. That's already happening. Say, well, see, we expect the FTC to fine us $9 billion next quarter. The EU will be fining us $11 billion in a month.
Yeah, but Andy, this isn't for a quarter's work that they've done. This is an investigation that has gone on for years. So they've made $25 billion a quarter. Let's say that the investigation's been going on for 5 years. That's $100 billion a year that they've made for 5 years, and they're going to fine them $5 billion, $11 billion. Who cares? I'd happily pay that and keep the other $80 billion. And that's part of the problem that we see too.
That's why we need EU-style regulation on the worst of these things. Right now, Zuckerberg is personally on the hook for the details of the 2011 agreement Facebook made with the FTC to settle that ongoing dispute, because they agreed to certain terms that they then absolutely refused to stick to. So the FTC came back. No, exactly. They didn't. I mean, and then they came. So the FTC came back and said, "Okay, guess what? You are going to be personally responsible for this. You're going to appoint a couple of officers that are going to be personally responsible for the consent agreement as well. And if you fail, now we're talking about you personally are going to be paying fines, and or you personally are going to be serving jail time. You need to put that kind of skin in the game, given that when the Equifax breach, the only person who went to jail for being so irresponsible with people's credit history reports that tens of millions, 100 million reports were leaked out. The only person who went to jail is the officer who decided that, gee, this news is going to come out in a week. The stock is going to tank. I better sell all my Equifax stock.
Right.
That guy went to jail. But as far as the other people, a settlement that's saying, well, maybe we'll give you $100, but you probably will never actually collect it. This is why we can't have regulations. We have to have laws now. There's a difference between a regulation and a law. Congress passes laws. The FTC and the Justice Department have regulations. We need laws now.
So what about that camera, though? Really good, huh?
To answer your question, Leo, about how many people block ads. Yeah. On MacObserver, we can tell how many.
Oh yeah, because you got ad blockers coming to your site.
Of course, and it's about 12% that block ads on a site like MacObserver. So these are informed people, but I assume there's some level of them that choose to whitelist our site, right? Because they're fans of the site or whatever.
Does
But that's not gonna
MacObserver
be a
do the
huge
pop-up
number.
thing where it says, I see you're using an ad blocker, support us?
You know, I
Turn it
wrote a
off.
thing to do that about 10 years ago, and I turned it off. It's like, what am I? Wait, it didn't make any difference whatsoever. I was like, why do I want to? It's
pretty funny.
like, it's not worth it.
But-
yeah.
But
So I
another
just
question
turned it off.
is that number correlated to how many people proportionally are visiting your site via mobile devices, where privacy plugins are not quite as easy to install and manage?
That's a good question. That's aggregate numbers, but it hasn't really changed over the years from when we went from no mobile to many mobile. It's always been that kind of between 10 and 15. In fact, it used to be higher. Now it's lower. So maybe that is the reason mobile kind of brings that number down a little bit. Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm turning off my ad blocker on MacObserver.com.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I recommend everybody does that. No, do whatever you want.
To bring it back to Apple quickly, just that this is why I do appreciate that Apple is sincere about caring about privacy, but remember that for years they were railing against, Facebook is so irresponsible, Google is so irresponsible, these other companies are so irresponsible, we're not so irresponsible. But okay, guess what? Because your browser on the iPhone is one of the most popular browsers in the entire world, you could just simply change Safari so that ad blocking is kind of hardwired into the system, and that it's always informing the user of what's going on with tracking. But you didn't really care about that, did you? So that's why I'm saying that I do believe that they're sincere about it. But when Apple decides to hold themselves up as being so above everybody else, when they're willing to fight and make the pose for the statue about thinking that privacy is a human right and a human freedom, unless you live in China, in which case we want to have respect for local laws. This is why I really think that we have to have a more honest discussion industry-wide about where the lines are, what we are willing to accept, what we're willing to absolutely not cross the line on. And this is why I'm always a little bit skeptical whenever any company, Apple included, makes such a bold and broad statement about what they believe in and why they are superior to another company in that field.
I have to give Apple some props because I do think that they are attempting increasingly to encrypt more and more in preparation for the day when they want to be able to say to a government, gee, we'd love to give it to you, but we don't have it. And that was, of course, what happened with the famous FBI versus Apple case and so forth. And I think Apple, after that, said, you know what, from now on, let's work harder on making it impossible for us to satisfy government requests. What's going to happen in countries like Australia or Russia or China, where you're not allowed to encrypt these things, that's another matter. That's a matter for another day. Sorry, Jim, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that, no matter what company you are, you have to abide by the laws and rules of the countries that you're in. So, to say that Apple is maybe, I'm paraphrasing here, Andy, maybe weak on China, I think is a bit unfair, because Apple has to operate within the law in China. Now, the rest of the world basically is okay with being very closed and private and secure. They applaud that, and Apple does that in all those places that it can. But having said that, I do agree that I wish there was something more that Apple could do in China to help out there, and maybe in the future they will, if that opportunity is there.
Yeah.
But
they could leave the market. I mean, that's what Google did. You could leave the market.
But they did leave the market in 2011 before it became as big a market as it is right now.
As valuable as it is.
And we also
but everybody knew it was going to be valuable. Come on.
But also we know that was a laudable thing that they did walk away. However, now that we do know that Project Phoenix was a real thing, they were trying to create a search engine that would work within Google's, the Chinese government's rules before they got pretty much slapped down. They're still. Oh, come on! Now we're getting into an hour-long discussion, which we probably shouldn't get into.
Let's move on.
Let's move on. I will say that about the camera that I did. So I took my first like portrait selfie right after I set it up, and then like kind of looked at the screen. So okay, it looks kind of nice. And then when I finally looked at it on my laptop screen, it was like, I'm just concerned that people think that Andy wants all of his skin tones like sort of evened out, and he wants like all the lines like near his eyes to be softened, and he wants his eyes to be big and bright. It's like I think that this first iteration that I've seen in the iPhone 11, it looks a little bit pageant-y, just a little bit. And I know that
happened with the 10S, remember? And Apple backed down on that. I haven't noticed that in the current one, but remember, we're waiting on Fusion. Actually, let me take a break. And when we come back, I'd love to know what, I'm sure, Jim, you've been briefed. Maybe Dave has too. I would like to know what you guys think about the Fusion camera, which is coming out later this year, and what difference that will make. I'll also love to talk about, now that it's out, 13.1 and what we're seeing there. And there's a lot more to talk about, including some good news for Austin. But first, a word from our sponsor, Kaptara. If you're in business, I feel so sorry I see these surveys of businesses, and in which they say, what version of Windows are you using? And it's still like 30 or 40% Windows XP. And I know why that number is so high, because they've got software that runs their business that requires it, or requires Internet Explorer 8. Oh, that's sad. That's just sad. You should not be suffering with old, insecure software to run your business when there's great new software out there, and I have the place to find it. Kaptara. Kaptara lets you find the right software for your needs. You can compare thousands of options in hundreds of categories, 700 specific categories of software, from digital workplace software to video management software to email marketing software, CRM, but also individual line of business programs, yoga studio management. I actually like to, believe it or not, I like to go to Kaptara.com and just look spa software, and just look in random businesses and the software that's out there. And I'm always impressed. There is really great modern stuff available to you. You can search, you'll find dozens of programs in any category. You can also narrow it down by review rating, by options, whether there's a free trial, freemium, if there's a one-time license or a yearly license. You can find out if it supports features that your particular business needs. You can create a wonderful side-by-side comparison chart that really gives you all the information you need about various products, including the platforms it runs on. And then, I love this, Kaptara has reviews, lots of them, from actual verified users. Discover everything you need to make an informed decision with 1 million plus reviews right now. There's 1,000 new reviews every single day. And the reason is Kaptara is free. I think people who use Kaptara are so thrilled, they're so happy, that they go back and they leave a review. It's like paying it forward. You don't have to, but you don't have to do anything. It's absolutely, not freemium, absolutely free. Kaptara.com/MacBreak. Millions of people use Kaptara every month to find the best software for their business. Kaptara believes software makes the world a better place because it can help every organization become a better version of itself. Don't suffer with that old stuff. Visit Kaptara.com/MacBreak, Kaptera.com/MacBreak, and try it free. Kaptara.com/MacBreak. Software selection simplified. Usually we have trial offers from our advertisers. There isn't one for this because it's free. I can't give you less than free. Kaptara.com/MacBreak. Thank you, Kaptara, for your support. Thank you for supporting MacBreak Weekly by using that special address. What did I say? Oh, Fusion. Let's talk about the Fusion software. Jim, did you get any briefing from Apple about what they're going to do with Fusion and when it's going to be?
No.
They didn't talk about it?
No.
They did say it's coming. I mean, it's not a rumor, right? Oh, Jim knows everything, and he's obviously signed a non-disclosure agreement. Deep Fusion, they did talk about it. Come on, you can say that much.
I don't know.
All they've said is a brand new way of taking pictures with a neural engine in the A13 chip that will look at your image and say, well, that's a human, that's a dog, that's a wall, and add to the detail, reduce the noise. This is that thing where it shoots 9 images. Before you press the shutter button, it's captured 4 short images, 4 secondary images. When you push the button, it takes 1 long exposure photo, does the analysis in a second, and comes out with a photo. Dave, did they tell you anything?
No. I can say they didn't tell me anything.
Okay.
So,
Maybe they're not saying anything.
Maybe they told Jim more than me, but which wouldn't surprise me. But computational photography, mad science. That's all I know. Yeah. But it sure looks cool, doesn't it?
We don't know when, and is not on your phone now. Go ahead, Andy.
I did ask them about it during my briefing, and the only thing I got out of them was that it was, for now, optimized towards people and portraits, sort of things like that. So it's not necessarily going to be, hey, I see that you're taking a picture of dolphins at the beach. I know what dolphins look like. I know I know I want to use a high-speed shutter. I know that I want to use that. But yeah, it does feel like, just like all the lighting features that came out a couple of years ago, it does feel like the sort of feature where if I spend 2 weeks testing it out and writing about it, whatever I say about it will be almost completely useless after 6 or 7 months. I do feel as though it's something they're going to be continuing to improve as time goes by.
How much of this do you think is a way of hedging their bets against Google's Pixel 4 coming out in a couple of weeks? I
don't think that they have to hedge their bets against the Pixel, but I do think that this is a great example about how both the Galaxy Note and the Pixel and the iPhone, and also Huawei's new phones, all these ones really push all the other horses in the race to go further and further and faster. I mean, Jim was right. It's not as though Apple said, "Ooh, night sight, great pictures in low light. That's a great idea. We should do that." But it does mean that it does give Apple last year gave them like a bar saying, "Okay, when we are rolling out this feature, here is the bar we need to eclipse." And also things like what isn't good about it. It really does take impressive pictures, but what is not convenient about it? Okay, how about having to actually activate the feature? I think that they are aware that Google, as usual, is going to stress how good their artificial intelligence, machine language based photogrammetry is going to be, and they have to top it.
Yeah, I totally agree with Andy on that. When you look at how companies are pushing each other, that's definitely a good thing.
It's good for all of us. Competition
is great. Good for all of us. But when you look at these different features, we have to remember that all of these companies have been working on machine learning and things like that for quite a while. It's who's going to come out with the best machine learning and who's going to come out with the easiest way to implement it. And, looking at some of the things that Apple has done where they make it automatic, that may be great for the average user and maybe not so great for the pros. And these are the things that Apple has to try and weigh when it releases new features of, who are we trying to please here?
Well, who are they trying to please with this Slophie? That's my Instagram influencers, clearly.
I think that's Andy.
Me definitely, because when I'm on Instagram, what I want to see is someone doing a spit take or even vomiting or sneezing in super slow motion. And finally, my dreams have been answered.
It will happen. Apple is actually trying to trademark the term Slophies. They've applied to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office for the term Slophie.
And the rest of the makers are saying, you know what, Apple, you can have that. By all
you can have it. Yeah, that's right.
Save yourself the $5,000. You can have it.
That's just PR move, right? I mean, they might as well do it.
But have they trademarked Slophie with a PH?
No, and our good friend Micah Sargent owns that. So stay away, Apple. Stay away. That's all I can.
Well, if he has it and it sounds the same, then that automatically causes it to be rejected.
You're breaking a young man's heart.
No, if he already has it, then Apple will have to buy it from him.
Well, he registered it right when Apple announced it, so I don't know if there's prior art.
Depends on when Apple registered theirs.
He also misspelled it. He spelled it with a PH.
Got it. Yeah.
He has Slophie.net and Slophie.org. So it's a complicated story. It begins with the United States government granting Apple exemptions for tariffs on Chinese imports, including the power supply and the motherboard. These were all going to be tariffed in September. On Friday of last week, the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative granted Apple exemptions on the Magic Mouse 2, the Magic Trackpad 2, and various external components. The exclusions go till August 2020. In fact, any tariffs already paid will be refunded. Does not cover the Apple Watch, iPhones, or AirPods. Those will be tariffed starting December 15th.
I wish I could have that refund check.
Can you imagine what that must look like?
Just that one check.
Yeah.
I just want 1% of that refund check, Jim. You can have the other 99. I'm good.
So really, immediately after that announcement, Apple says, oh, guess what? Now we can make the Mac Pro in Austin. Oh, so the announcement was on Friday. Apple announced it on Monday.
Yeah,
and
but
anybody,
I mean, let's be realistic here. Apple always made the Mac Pro in Austin.
That's a good point, although there was some question, and Apple was careful not to say where they were going to make it.
Apple continuing to make the same product in the same place in the U.S. is not really as much news as what the media would have us believe. I think that they're trying to make a bit more out of it than what's actually there.
Well, first of all, this cheese grater is nothing like the old Mac Pro. Let's be honest. In name only, is there any similarity whatsoever? Certainly not in price. Are you going to buy one, Jim, for your music setup?
I would love to have one of those for my music, but if you start looking into music and stuff like that, for the average user, you can do a lot on an iMac now. So they're so powerful.
I just got a new camera that is a 61 megapixel camera. This thing chokes almost any device. I loaded up Lightroom, which is normally a pig, on the iMac Pro. It's no slower. It handles it no problem. Easy peasy. So there's a lot of headroom on the existing iMac Pro.
Yep.
Even just the regular iMac, like Jim said.
Yeah, regular iMac.
That machine is smoking. It is way more than most of us would need, even doing, especially like home stuff with music. I can't imagine that you'd really ever run into a problem with that. Even if you had a lot of plugins running and EQs and compression and all that, I think it's still handle it just fine.
And even depending on that, if you use products like Universal Audio, which I use, you're offloading all the processing onto external gear. So now your CPU is freed up just to handle, the live recording of music or mixing or editing. Yeah. So
it will be made at the Flex plant, same place that the Trash Can Mac is made. I don't know if is the right word for the Trash Can Mac. It's probably... They made a few thousand in 2013, and they just stopped. That's actually what people were saying at the Flex plant is we haven't made a new one of those in ages. We service them, but we haven't made a new one in ages.
Yeah, that's
no. Yeah. I feel like this new Mac Pro is going to be like a Rolls Royce. It's going to be handmade. They're going to have a tailor come in and stitch the leather. They're going to do it all by hand because, they might sell. I mean, how many are they going to sell of these?
They're going to sell a lot of those, I think.
You think it's starting at $6,000, and the one you want really is $20,000.
This is the ultimate pro machine that pros have been waiting for.
Yep.
And you're going to get the movie studios, all of the music studios, the high-end scientific market. All of these people are going to go buy a new Mac Pro.
I was going to buy one for each wing of the house.
With it, I don't know.
I'm going to get the West Wing and the East Wing should have their own Mac Pro, I believe.
Well, I agree with you. I'll send you a bill.
Not to mention the pool house. Those XDR monitors.
On the deck.
Yeah, on the deck. Absolutely.
Yes.
Actually,
on the lanai.
I just bought those outdoor Sonos speakers. I might as well have bought a Mac Pro. Christ, how does Sonos keep charging so much? $800 or something crazy.
Did you check out the new Sonos Move?
That's what I'm talking about. The Move.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been messing with that for a little while. I mean, it's a great speaker, right? And having it be AirPlay and Bluetooth and battery powered and basically checking off all the boxes that anybody ever complained about that Sonos doesn't make a speaker that has X, that's got it, right? I feel like it's $100 too expensive.
$400. And of course, if you want stereo, you got to have two of them.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
that's right. But they did a nice job with like.
So you already got yours. Mine was shipped, but I haven't received it. You've already got yours.
Yeah, and what's really cool about it is they wanted to make sure that the sound from the tweeter, from the high-end speaker, didn't just come straight out like a tweeter normally would. They knew it was going to be used outside, so they wanted the sound to spread. So the tweeter is actually placed face down in the top of the unit, and there's this wave curve piece of plastic. They went through like 65 iterations of it or something, and it not only spreads the sound out about 180 degrees, but it also drains because you're going to get rain on the thing when you leave it outside.
Oh, so I'm not leaving this
outside. Pretty cool. I left mine outside in a rainstorm about a week ago.
Are you nuts?
Just because I had to. Oh. And you know what? It did fine.
Okay.
It did great.
So you don't actually have to plug it in to charge it. It has a charging stand that it charges on, right?
Yeah, it's like a ring. Calling it a stand isn't quite right because acoustically, you wouldn't want the speaker sitting in on top of that ring.
Right.
So the speaker actually sits on your table, and then the ring is perfectly shaped to charge it when you drop the speaker in, essentially inside the ring.
But you wouldn't listen to it inside the ring.
Yeah, you could.
Oh, you could.
Totally.
Okay.
That's the idea, is maybe have that ring in your kitchen or whatever.
Oh,
I find it the ultimate grilling accessory, right? Because I can grab it and take it outside with me.
That's why, honestly,
yes.
That's why I got it.
It's awesome.
That in the hot tub. I want to be able to take it outside.
Dave, can I ask a really important question? Does the ring leave a ring on your fine furniture?
I put it down,
here we
so
go.
I've had it for about a week, and the answer is no. But we'll see. So yeah, we'll see.
You're placing it wrong.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
You clearly don't have the sort of super expensive furniture that Apple thinks that deserves to be placed underneath their own speaker.
No, I have a house full of Sonos speakers.
Really.
I don't have expensive furniture to go with.
Oh my God! Yeah, you buy Sonos. I thank God they've kind of kept up with the times, because I have such an investment in Sonos, not just at home but here. We have Sonos all over the studio here. And,
have you checked out those new Symphonisk speakers, the IKEA? No. You can get it. It's $100, Leo, for the bookshelf speaker. It's fully Sonos, and it's fully.
Oh, it's Sonos compatible?
It is a Sonos speaker. It's just sold by IKEA. It's $99.
Do I have to assemble it from a flat pack?
You could if you wanted, but you don't have to.
Okay.
And it's AirPlay 2 and all the stuff that new Sonos speakers are, except it's $100.
Wow.
Don't get that one. That's the silly lamp thing. I have one of those. It's no, but the bookshelf one is.
It looks like
the best lamp in the world. I want to buy it just to reward them for that marketing copy.
Well,
it looks like a HomePod with a plastic lamp on top of it.
Yeah, don't
it
get
looks
that.
like Eve from
That's
WALL-E.
not for you and me. That's not for you.
If you started playing music and a disco ball popped out of there, that would be cool. I'd buy that.
No, and the lamp isn't even smart in that, right? Like that switch on the side is just to turn the lamp on and off.
Oh,
that's
please.
it.
You should be able to talk to the lamp.
But the speaker is smart. Yeah.
Okay.
You should be able to talk to the lamp. We have a T-shirt.
Talk to the lamp.
Where's the show going?
Down the tubes? Oh, no, too late. Too late.
Down the tubes.
See what happens when Rennie doesn't show up?
Yeah. No, he didn't help either. One bad thing we're learning from the makers of Halide, the wide-angle camera on the iPhone Pro, they can't access raw capture. They can't access the lens directly. So it's the ultra-wide camera isn't yet capable of capturing raw image data or manual focus. So Halide can't do its thing with that ultra wide angle. This is Ben Sandofsky from Halide.
Manual focus makes sense because it's a super wide angle lens. It's probably got this really huge depth of field anyway. The raw is the raw is interesting. It's maybe that they don't want people to see exactly what how distorted it is and how much pixie dust the iPhone has to sprinkle over to turn it into what looks like a normal image.
Well, they're doing it. It's an 18 millimeter effective, which means it's going to have some curvature, some barrel distortion, no matter what. And clearly, when you look at the images, it's been corrected. So maybe that is the reason. Yeah. Other cameras do for instance, on the Google Pixel phone, they do have like their advanced HDR, which because it's a synthetic image, there shouldn't be a raw file capable from it, but they generate what they admit is sort of like a faux raw. Say, well, we'll give you sort of all the features that you would kind of want from a raw file, even though this is a completely synthetic image. So it's not like Apple couldn't do that in the future if they have any concerns. But that is interesting. It's kind of, and it's a little bit disappointing, but hopefully we'll see it in the future. Because when you talk about this being a pro phone and pro camera, where a lot of people are going to be using it for like field journalism, so it's unfortunate. So it's also, I think, I don't want it as much because it's such a kind of odd look. It's actually 13 millimeters equivalent, not 18. So it is very wide. It's kind of weirdly wide. I love that look, but I think it is kind of an extra flavor. It's like the licorice of camera lenses. Red licorice, not black licorice, what we should say. Okay.
No, definitely black licorice. Some people like it. Some people like it. Some people love it.
Other people will get high blood pressure from eating too much of it.
Yeah. But I honestly think that's a really great feature, having a super wide angle lens, because if you can always the thing is you can't back up farther than a certain point to get everything in, but you can always like crop something in. So if I would love to have both telephoto and super wide, but if I had to choose one, I would definitely take the super wide.
Yeah. No, especially if you're taking building pictures, things like that, or as you say, in areas where you just can't.
Or we want to get everybody in the table in the shot. So
yeah. I like wide-angle photography. Actually, I'm kind of a fan. This is a 16 to 35 lens on this, and I just really enjoy that. Let's see. Anything? I want to talk more about the hardware. We're getting the new iPads, the 10.2-inch low-cost iPad shipping to customers tomorrow, in store later this week, according to Mac Rumors. That's good. Actually, I got a good question for you. You guys receive an invitation to another Apple event yet?
I most certainly have not.
No.
Not I.
Do you think, Jim, there will be another Apple event? They got to announce the Mac Pro, show it.
They already showed the Mac Pro.
Okay,
they did that.
Okay.
I don't think they do another event just to say, hey, look at the Mac Pro.
Not just for that, but there's more iPads. There's iPad Pros in the mix. There's
16-inch.
I want that. I am literally waiting for that 16-inch MacBook before I buy another laptop.
It'd be interesting to see what they choose to do. Like one way is to have it wouldn't be even a big event, like sort of like more like a town hall sort of event where there's only about 100, 150 people in there. But another one is for Apple to decide what concerns do we want to address in the populace about what we've changed with this new MacBook. And it's possible that the best way for them to do that is to make an announcement, release a whole bunch of really cool videos and a real cool website for people to check out, but make sure that they choose 8 people that are really going to be copacetic with the changes that they've made, and let them have it for a couple of weeks, then let them sort of make the announcement, so to speak, because it's hard to know what at this point it's hard to know what merits for Apple. We're going to bring everyone into Cupertino. We're going to book a big hall in order to show this off. I don't know that there's anything that's left on the boards yet that would merit anything more than 100 people in town hall. But I could be wrong.
It is it would be a pro event. It could be like that school event. You know, but maybe do it in I don't know, a Hollywood studio or something.
Or New York City. There are a whole bunch of like small spaces that are like, you know, like the Friends set almost, where it's all oak panel. You can set it up. Microsoft does that a lot with a lot of their events. Amazon does that for their events as well, where they can really control the thing and make it into the sort of room that they want a professional level piece of hardware to be shown off in, because it's not going to be about getting consumers excited about new phone colors. It really is going to be about getting people who bill at thousands of dollars per hour excited about buying a $20,000 computer that will help them with their $500,000 projects.
So Jim, you don't think they'll do an event?
Well, I think it's going to be how fundamentally changing the industry this computer is, or what they think it is. Like Andy said, they could easily explain a new MacBook Pro with videos and everything else. But if they feel that this is a monumental shift, then they'll have an event.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, they've already showed the Mac Pro. There's no need to really show that again. All they're doing now is putting it out there.
A redesign of the MacBook Pro would be a significant event.
Well, it could be. If it's more than just the screen. I mean, if there's, more power in there, and it's a device that is going to be more widely used, then I could see that. Maybe if there's iPad Pros along the way and they do a MacBook iPad type of combined event, but it all depends on how monumental they think it is. If they're just going to upgrade processors and stuff, then a small bump, then I don't think that would warrant an event.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we already have an 8-core MacBook Pro, right? So is making the screen on the 8-core MacBook Pro enough to warrant assembling everyone from all corners of the earth?
Do you discredit the rumor that they're going to abandon the butterfly keyboard for this? You think that that's a possibility?
Well, you and I might see that as a reason to assemble people from all corners of the earth. I'm not sure Apple wants to
I'd go to that
kind
party.
Of attention to this. Yeah, exactly.
Well, but it is a fly in the soup, and if you know that most of the coverage, when you write constructively about the MacBook Pro, you're writing about one of the things that you have to write about is a keyboard that was failing, that a lot of people don't even like when it works. And so it depends on whether Apple sees that as it's time for us to do a minor mea culpa and say that we're still working on this, we're still developing this. We know that one of the things that you might want to be interested in is how are we progressing on the keyboard. And so here is a lot of stuff that we're talking about how we changed, fixed, upgraded, whatever the keyboard. Or it's possible that they're going to say that most of the customers are happy with it. Let's not call attention to it. I think that the fact that when it became a support issue, when it became a durability issue, that's when it stopped becoming something that they could really say, oh, well, some people we think that most people like it. When you have so many stories of people saying, well, I had to download a special app from the App Store just to make the stuttering keys on my keyboard stop stuttering. That's when they have to at least make part of that presentation. And here's how we've redesigned the keyboard, along with taking people for private briefings and saying more in depth that here is what we have found and here's what we're doing to change it. That is something, again, they have to take the fly out of the soup somehow.
And I'll say again, and I've said this before, I have used all generations of these keyboards on MacBook Pros over the past few years, and I have not had an issue. Now, I realize that some people do, and I feel terrible for those people because I can't imagine how frustrating that might be. But, just as a
1 in
little bit
4
of,
MacBreak Weekly panelists loves the Apple Butterfly keyboard.
Yeah, every one of them that we've had here, every one of them that we've purchased here, the review unit MacBook Pro that I have does not have that issue. But every one of them, MacBook Air and MacBook Pro that we've purchased here, has had, within 6 months of it leaving the factory, it's had the stuttering keys. So you're right, Andy. It's
There's
beyond personal preference. It's there's a functional issue with these things.
Well, and for me, I haven't had, like you, Jim, I've not had a problem with it. I just don't like it. So
I like it.
Yeah, you like it, but that's the personal preference part. So
yeah,
I mean, honestly, I'm waiting because I love the idea of a 16-inch screen and the 15-inch body. I like the body design. I don't think they need to really redesign it, except maybe I would like to see more connectors. Maybe I guess that horse has left the barn, and I would really like to see. Well, there's two things. One is a better keyboard, a real keyboard with some travel, and maybe not the touch bar, but just the fingerprint part of the touch bar, like on my MacBook Air. I would love to see that too. So I think there's places they could go with it, but they're not making that for me. I'm waiting to see what they do, and because I'm due to buy a new high-end laptop. It's going to be that. If they offer that, if they don't, then it's going to be a Lenovo.
I personally don't use the touch bar. I could never really figure out how to use the touch bar. For the purposes. I know what it is, but
are they still all in on the touch bar? I guess they are.
Yeah, big time, because they just added it to the lowest priced MacBook Pro, and they sort of revamped that in June.
There's no Escape Mac left.
No, I like the touch bar. I like the
well,
the
1 out of 4 MacBreak weekly cut.
There you go.
Dave,
at least it's not the same one.
Can I ask one follow-up question? Do you also recommend sugarless gum for people who chew gum, or do you not recommend sugarless gum for them?
I think
my attorney says that I need to decline to comment.
4 out of 5 doctors recommend a hearty breakfast.
That's right.
I hope
I like
that
the
Apple
keyboard too.
Yeah.
What can I say?
That's absolutely fine. Yeah. I hope that Apple puts a lot more of their passion into this idea of the new features of Catalina and the new iOS, where just the idea of all the people who have iPhones or iPads and the ability to say, well, what if we just say, what if we just let developers use this as a touch interface with its own like on-screen controls, its own on-screen buttons, its own, like you could have a jog shuttle, you could have a color palette on it. That would be just such a transformative thing, not just for the MacBook, but for laptops in general. We've been seeing on the Windows side of things some early experiments in having like laptops that have additional screens built into them, and not all of them are, I think, really successful, but I think that all of them are really, really interesting in terms of a direction that a laptop or even desktop computing can go in. It's been a while since Apple really did something that just on the desktop or on laptops that everybody decided that, wow, this is such a good idea that we have to think about how we're going to incorporate this in our own designs. And if they were to say that, not only would they be selling a lot more iPhones and a lot more iPads, but they really, really would be transforming the Macintosh and making it to something that's really prepared for 2020, 2021, 2022.
All right. Well, I guess I'm going to get rid of that save the date and just wait for a press release. If they did announce it, it would be in October, right?
Yeah.
Or you think they can't wait too long because
things that happen after October tend to happen when they've absolutely promised by the end of a certain calendar year and they can't back away from it at this point. And so that's when you see that we have 3 of them available for order on December 31st while you're still drinking for New Year's. But if it's not available by, let's say, the first week in November, I don't think we'll see anything.
That's what happened in 2013. I got the trash can Mac. They announced it and I ordered it, but it didn't arrive till January. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the watch. I bought something in the App Store. Wow, that was wild on the watch. That was an interesting experience. We'll also talk about something that Jim is going to like a lot. I think lyrics in iOS 13. But first, a word from WWT, Worldwide Technology. Everybody knows WWT. If you are buying for a company and you're getting the big iron, the technology that makes the company sing, You've heard of WWT because they are the people who make it sing for you. They're the ones who can get that system working and running and help you buy exactly what you need. It was about 10 years ago, WWT started their Advanced Technology Center, and this thing is amazing, the ATC. Like no other testing and research lab in the world, it contains more than $500 million in equipment from hundreds of OEMs, key partners, ranging from heavyweights like NetApp and Cisco and VMware to emerging disruptors like Tanium and Equinix and Expanse. The engineers at WWT use this Advanced Technology Center to spin up proofs of concept, to do pilots for their customers, helping them choose the best solution, which really reduces the time from concept to delivery down to weeks instead of months. But here's something really cool. They offer lab as a service, a dedicated lab space within the ATC where you, as a customer, can perform your own testing. You have access to that $500 million equipment, that vast technology ecosystem WWT has already built. So you can say, well, how is this going to work with that? For instance, you can use, if you're interested in the NetApp Cloud Volumes ONTAP, you can use ONTAP on Flash, NetApp Disaster Recovery as a service. You can set up labs, hundreds of other labs representing the newest advances in every area of enterprise technology, flash storage, multi-homed clouds, hyper-converged infrastructure, cloud data management, and on and on and on. So you can see ahead of time, before you buy, exactly how this is going to integrate with your existing system. They launched it this summer, and it is a hit. The WWT ATC Lab as a Service. It's a multiplier effect of knowledge, of speed, of agility, anytime, anywhere, around the world. For as a customer at WWT, you get access to all sorts of information, articles and case studies. You get hands-on in the labs. You get tools that can make a difference in today's rapidly changing world. And here's the best part. You can use it anywhere in the world, 24/7. You don't have to go to St. Louis. To learn more about WWT and their Advanced Technology Center, to sign up for access to this new on-demand lab platform, I want you to go to wwt.com/twit. wwt.com/twit. Worldwide technology simplifies the complex. Take advantage of this. This is remarkable. wwt.com/twit. WWT, delivering business and technology outcomes all over the world, and just for you. We thank them so much for their support of MacBreak Weekly. Boy, there's just so much stuff to talk about in 13.1. But first, let's talk about lyrics, because I know Jim has got to be happy about that. Apple Music, lyrics to live by. Have you played with this yet?
I am thrilled with the lyrics.
So you see it as you listen to the song?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a lyrics button. It's fascinating to see it, to look at it.
Nice.
To read along with it. You know, it's just one of those things. If you're,
especially the music you listen to, Jim. I don't want to say anything, but it's you never know what the guy's saying when he's. It's nice to know he's saying, "My love is like a red, red rose." You just would never know that. Oh, I'm teasing you. But I have to say, there's a lot of music. I listen to the Rolling Stones. I never knew what those songs were about.
Right?
You never knew.
You put on the lyrics, and all of a sudden you're reading a story.
Yeah.
With these lyrics. So I really like it myself. I think it's great to have that option in there, that, the lyrics come up as the music comes up. You don't need to scroll. You don't need to do anything. You're basically sitting there reading a story to music.
Nice.
And I love it.
They've also added, I called it Lyrics to Live By. This is a video series that they're doing with names like Halsey, Hunter Hayes, Midland, the stories behind their careers. I think this is really where Apple differentiates from Spotify and all the other competitors, by their love for music and the unique way I think that they curate and do their music stuff. It's for people. I always feel like it's for people who used to listen to. But I mean, that's because this is me. I used to listen to album-oriented rock radio, and I would listen to specific DJs because they would know about the music, the way they mixed it, the way they talked about it. You could tell their love for it. And I think I feel the same way a little bit about what Apple's doing, and I think it's an important part. I'm sure that's some of the influence of Johnny Iovine, and some of it's just because of Apple's DNA with music.
Yeah,
Whatever it is, it's good.
They're music fans.
They care. They're music
good.
fans. You
they
can
care.
tell. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
And then there's songwriting gods and goddesses, playlists from Elton John, Joni Mitchell, Neil Young, Bruce Springsteen. So you get some great playlists in there. And Discovery, I think, is very good on Apple Music as well. That's a tough one to compete with because Spotify's Discover weekly playlist is so good. But Apple does something similar, I think.
Yeah, Apple's playlists, I find myself gravitating more towards Spotify's playlists than Apple's. Yeah, and I don't know why that is. I mean, I've noticed it consistently over the last whatever year, and I'm not exactly sure why, but I find myself
kind of agree
using
with
Spotify's
you.
playlist.
And I'm no longer a Spotify premium member, but I kind of agree with you on that. And even the radio that Apple does, I do have to say that the radio is better than Pandora for sure, without the weird repeats and stuff. But
yeah, that's what gets me. But I just canceled my Pandora.
Yeah, you don't need it
because the repeats were just so awful.
Yeah, and Pandora always somehow managed to get a Beatles song in, no matter what, no matter what the playlist was. I want to hear country music.
Is there anything wrong with shooting a Beatles song in the middle of anything?
I love the Beatles.
I was just checking.
But it just seemed odd.
The Beatles is the Kevin Bacon of music matching. No matter what change, they'll always find a connection to a Beatles song. That's an excellent no matter what the algorithm.
There's always a Beatles connection. I think you're exactly right. Let's see. There's arcade. How do you guys like arcade?
Loving it.
Haven't used it.
Oh, Jim, you got to get out of that music shell you're in.
No, I'm just not a gamer.
Yeah.
I understand why people use arcade, and I understand that it's going to be very popular, but it's just not something that I use. I just don't play games. So,
actually, Jim, can I say something that I'm not a gamer either, and Of course, I signed up for it as soon as I activated the iPhone 11 and been downloading so many of these cool games. They're not really the games that I've been finding they're more like puzzles. They're more like interactive pieces. A lot of them are like interactive pieces of art. They're not the sort of games that get me all like wound up and anxious and nervous.
Yeah.
They're like calm and they're tranquil. So I like them a lot.
That just sounds frustrating to me.
I don't know that I would have signed up if I didn't. I mean, I guess I would have anyway, but I signed up because I knew it would actually save us money having a 17-year-old son.
Absolutely.
Right? But
is he happy, though? That's a good question. Because he's presumably a hardcore gamer, right, at that age?
He plays a lot of games, for sure. Yeah. No, he's happy. In fact, he was showing me while we were having lunch. He doesn't seem to go to school a whole lot. I don't know. He's worked out a nice little schedule for himself. But anyway, we were having lunch together today, and he's like, "Have you seen Hot Lava? This game's amazing.
So fun.
It's so fun." Yeah. And I was like, "Oh yeah, look at this."
This is Operator 41. You have to sneak around and get to the phone before the Gestapo guy gets you, and it's kind of, I'll tell you what I love about these games. They're games that probably wouldn't kind of make it on the App Store without, because they're just, some of them are really more arty or they're simpler.
Ads,
Yeah. But I think this is just really, oh God, get in there. Oh yes, I did. I got there. I snuck around him.
It's like Castle Wolfenstein on rails. That's awesome.
But there's no shooting. And this is, kind of pretty typical of Apple's stuff, is that they don't like to do, shoot 'em ups. There's some fighting, but this is it's just creative. They're very creative. And $5 a month, and it seems like an unlimited supply of entertainment. I worry about the game. I worry about what's going to do to the game ecosystem outside the arcade.
Yeah. Yeah. How many games need to move into arcade as arcade sort of moves along, right? That's the real question is, what does it look like a year from now? And does the exclusivity remain? And if it does, can people migrate into it in order to take advantage and participate there? Like, I got a lot of questions.
I would not want to be launching a big title on the App Store, especially a freemium title right now on the App Store with in-app purchases, because I feel like people are going to go, yeah, no, I'll do the one I got. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, but particularly, I hope that I get to like actually pay for and keep a game like What the Golf.
Oh, because isn't What the Golf awesome?
Yeah, it's almost like a stand-up routine that you're just in the audience of, because it's not. I mean, it starts you off thinking that, okay, look, it's a cute little cartoony like mini golf game, but then like you take a swing and on the second or third hole you take a swing and you've actually just like thrown the player, and now like every time you swing you're throwing the player onto the green, and now it's just a level after level after level, and I would like to be able to own the games I really, really like and have access to play them and replay them whenever I want. I would be disappointed if someday it left Apple Arcade and the developers didn't find a way to put it back in the App Store or whatever. Because it's the same problem you have like with Netflix and other streaming services, where you hate to think that, okay, well I can only watch Friends or Seinfeld until Netflix or whoever or Hulu loses the rights to it, and then maybe if I sign up for this other, you like to own things. I would also like the pleasure of taking $5 out of my wallet and giving it to the people who wrote this app.
Well, you're right. I'm gonna cry.
Here's some money. I want you to have some money. I want the next time that you buy a muffin at Starbucks, I want you to maybe think that it was the $18 that I gave you. 4 of those singles were paid for that muffin.
I'm going to cry if they take this away. You're right. I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
You know, this is this game is hours of fun. And if they suddenly said, "Oh yeah, it's no more," but you know what? Maybe that's actually, now that you mention it, that's going to be the secret of this is, oh, you want to keep playing it? Well, just pay us $5 and you can keep playing it. Maybe that's why these guys are putting up with that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting.
Go ahead.
That's the nature of the streaming world or the subscribing world that we live in, right? Things leave Netflix and it's like, oh crap. Like, maybe that is a reality. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Maybe the thought of this whole thing is that when games do leave the arcade because they bring in new games, then these people will be allowed to sell them.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to be bummed because in a couple of months I'm going to have to buy this. But that is a good incentive for the developer, isn't it?
Yeah.
I wonder if Apple allows that. Like what kind of long-term deal? Because if everybody's like, well, cool, I'll use Apple Arcade to get people hooked, and then a month in, I'll bail, and now you got to pay me $20. I don't think Apple.
No,
wants
I don't think that you can bail. I think it's going to be a situation of where maybe Apple, you know, they keep adding games, so at some point they're going to have to trim. If they trim, then your game is gone. But let's not forget that Apple is helping to fund these games too.
Yeah.
Right.
So it could be that you're being paid for, you know, the development and everything by Apple, and then if they want to shelve it, it's theirs to shelve.
Right.
That's true.
But at least it's not. It's only exclusive to iPhone in regards to mobile platforms. So there's nothing preventing them from making a version for Windows or for consoles or for the Switch. So at least there's that.
Right. Yep.
This is now on the Apple TV. Today's the day you can update your Apple TV and go out and get. I don't know what I'm doing here. Apparently building something. I don't know.
Definitely not podcasting.
That podcasting. Yes, I remember that. That's so 1995.
We're transitioning to a Twitch stream, starting with this episode, where we're
going to be all gameplay all the time.
Hey, just add 2 letters, man, and you're good to go.
Yeah, very
there
close.
You go.
Apple has also added some shortcut capabilities, right, to iOS 13.1. Automation is built in.
Home automation. Yeah.
What is automation? Tell me about that.
Home automation, which was taken out, I think, during the betas, went back in. So now you can have home automation shortcuts, cool. Which is one of the greatest things about having shortcuts to begin with. So I'm glad that didn't go away forever. I have to find friends who have also have U1 chip equipped phones, because now the point your phaser at someone else's U1 equipped phone
is
for
that
airdrop
turned on?
That comes on with 13.1.
Oh, I didn't know that. So I should airdrop. I should try airdropping to somebody and see if I can aim at them. Right now, they should mix that with What the Golf, and I should be able to pull this back and fire a baby at them. That would be cool.
It should, but no. What it should do is it should make pew 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 sounds as the file is being transferred.
Oh, I didn't realize that's turned on as of this. Okay, that's exciting. That's exciting. Dark mode. You love dark mode. Who doesn't love dark mode? This is iPadOS we're talking about now. You will absolutely want to upgrade both your iPhone if it's on 13.0 and your iPad if it's on 12.x. Because the 13.0 version had some security issues and lots of bugs. Andy, you probably already upgraded your new iPhone 11, I would presume.
Yep, my iPhone has got upgraded just this morning.
Yeah,
I updated mine during the show here.
Yeah, it doesn't take too long, maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Worth it. In fact, it's important, I think, to do that. We won't do the what's new. We've actually got a pretty big show off on iOS today of 13.1, and we talked about that. Well, let's talk about the watch. We also showed a little bit about the new watchOS 6, which, by the way, everybody eventually will be getting, except for I think Series 0 and 01. But right now, Series 3, 4, and 5 will be getting it. This is kind of cool. The App Store is right there on the watch, so you can now download and install apps from the watch, which I think is really cool.
We have to be so close to having a multi-platform version of watchOS. It has to be. It's becoming so much like the iPod and like the iPhone, where it is a state in and of itself that doesn't require necessarily an iPhone. That I hope we see an Android compatible edition of the software by next year.
Really, that's an interesting idea. You think they'll go cross-platform?
I think there's a lot of money over there, and also it's embarrassing, the state of Wear OS.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
It's exactly, and again, you're talking about a very, very happy Android user, and I have a couple of Wear OS, whatever they're calling it. Android. We used to be Android Wear watches, and they're okay. What they are wristwatches. They feel like wristwatches that happen to have one or two sort of smartphone features tacked into them, whereas the Apple Watch, I've been wearing this for a whole day, but also I've had a Series 1 that I still occasionally wear from time to time. This feels like something that's taking advantage of, let's have an actual computing platform on your wrist that does something beyond just giving you notifications. Again, they're doing nothing. It's there's just nothing there. There was a piece, I think, that was written, I forgot who wrote it, but last week, really just talking about all of the problems in getting in deciding there might be a future for Android Wear, from they can't get developers on board to they can't even get hardware manufacturers to, when they add new features to Wear OS, to the operating system, they can't even get manufacturers to say, well, yes, we will add features that will let you make and receive phone calls from the watch, even though that Google, you just finally come up with that feature. It's just I gave up waiting last year, and now I will be very, very serious about this. I'm not joking about this. I could switch to the iPhone. I could not switch to the iPhone. The iPhone 11 is very, very good. I really like it. I've never stopped loving iPhones. But the one, if I do decide to switch from an Android daily driver to an iPhone, it's going to be because I like the Apple Watch so much that I know that this is the only way that I can get a watch that I really, really like. That's how bad the situation is. So maybe I've just made the argument for why Apple would absolutely not want to create a Android version of watchOS. But on the other hand, there are a lot of people all over the world who have Android phones from all kinds of different manufacturers. All of them will have $200 to $600 to spend on a watch that absolutely kicks the butt of any Android Wear watch, and is also better markedly than Samsung's own Gear watch. I think that there's a lot of money that's there on the table, and now that they've put so many of the features that once required a phone onto the watch itself, I really think that they're getting very, very close to it.
I don't have the new watch. What do you all think of Always On? Is that a game changer?
Yeah,
I really
me
like
it is.
Always On.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. I mean, it's one of these things that you don't know that you're frustrated by it until you're frustrated by it.
Oh, I know I'm frustrated by it.
Right.
Because I often have to flip this like 3 times to see the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or you flip it, it doesn't come on, and then you flip it, and then you start tapping on it. Yes. So the great thing, I mean, when you look at a watch to see the time, you just kind of expect it to be there. So you look up, and the time is there, and you look. When it's not, then you're interrupted in whatever it was you were doing, whether you're talking to somebody or, whatever it is. And then it becomes an actual item, like a task that you have to do. Well, all I wanted to know what time it was. Yeah. It seems like a simple thing. Yeah. Well, now you can. Now you don't even have to pick your wrist up. You can just sort of glance and it's there. So I really like it. I think it's much better.
And Dave, you didn't seem like you were that overwhelmed by it.
I'm still, the watch that I have that I don't put on my wrist while I'm recording because it would distract me is still a 0G Apple Watch that arrived on release day. But with the new features of watchOS 6, especially the SPL, the sound pressure level meter that's in there.
As soon as I installed 6, it said, "Do you want to turn that on?" And I said, absolutely. It hasn't gone off yet, but
my wife's got a newer watch than me, and she's got watchOS 6 with that in there. And we were at David Byrne's American Utopia thing in Boston last night. Oh my God, freaking amazing!
Oh wow!
And he, at one point, her watch told her like we're above 90 decibels. 30 minutes of exposure. And it was like because it wasn't that loud. I am obsessed with protecting my hearing. And I had earplugs with me, but I didn't have them in. And she showed me her watch just because it was the first time she had experienced it. It was like, oh, crap, right. And I put my earplugs in. And so I had already decided I'm going to get, one of the newer watches just so I can have that feature. And the Always On I had decided I was buying it before I knew that Always On was in there. But I agree. That's a game changer. It's so frustrating to have to jerk around with your wrist and tap and click. It's like the old Pulsar watches from the 80s. Like I used to have a watch where I could push it and at least I got 8 seconds out of it. Sometimes with the Apple Watch, I have it and it's like, oh crap, now it's gone. What the heck? So
forget that. How was American Utopia?
Oh, dude, it was so amazing.
It's going to Broadway. You saw like one of the last nights in Boston.
Yeah, it ends on Saturday, I think. Yeah, my wife took me as an early birthday present last night.
What a nice
it's
gift.
Really, really
worth
cool.
Seeing?
Yeah. Oh, totally worth seeing. It's, what you see there are the props. That's it. It is just people on stage. But these people are all amazing musicians. And, I could go on for a long time about this. David Byrne is
I'm
the way he
huge
writes
fan of Byrne,
music.
Of course.
Yeah,
Talking Heads.
He writes African style music where each part sort of fits into the whole in this very conceived way. And the way he sort of orchestrated this whole thing is really, it's amazing and very well suited to his music, but that's no great surprise. So yeah, really, really fun. And he's so personable. He's so comfortable being awkward. Like that's the thing about him. You know what I mean? Like if he's not being awkward.
He just is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just is. Yeah.
That's good. I like it.
Anyway.
I understand he's also grown into that big suit from Stuff Making Sense finally.
Yeah, it fits now. That's right.
All right. Anything else? I want to get you out of here, Andy, and you got about 10 more minutes. So let me take a break. We'll get our picks of the week right after this. Our show today brought to you by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. You know, finding the right house is a hard thing to do, but finding the right mortgage, that is as simple as going to rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. Rocket Mortgage is doing more to help you understand the process. And it can be scary. It's the biggest check you'll ever write, the biggest purchase you'll ever make. And there's a lot of jargon and, you know, stuff maybe you've never done before. Rocket Mortgage gets you exactly what you need by helping you understand the process, because this just isn't any old mortgage. This is your mortgage. Rocket Mortgage's team of mortgage experts are obsessed with finding a better way. That means their number one goal to make the home buying process smoother for you. Of course, award-winning client service. We've talked about this a lot. They keep winning the J.D. Power Customer Satisfaction Award 9 years in a row now for primary mortgage origination. 9 years in a row. They just got it again for mortgage servicing. 6 years in a row for J.D. Power Award information. Visit jdpower.com. Rocket Mortgage is changing the game with state-of-the-art online technology. We know you're nerds. We know you like to do it online. They've helped millions of Americans achieve their dream of home ownership. And oh yeah, by the way, their rates are fantastic. When you work with Rocket Mortgage, you get more than just a loan. Rocket Mortgage is more than just a lender. Think of them as your friends on the way to your new home. Visit rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak and take that first step toward the home of your dreams. rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, and MLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Push button, get mortgage. Rocket Mortgage. Thank you, Rocket Mortgage. Longtime sponsor of our shows. We're big fans. Let's start with Dave. Dave Hamilton, pick of the week this week.
My pick it's a Mac app called Mac Updater. They run a website, too, called MacUpdater.net, but it's an app that you run on your Mac. It scours everything that you have and then will not only tell you what apps have updates available, but also will allow you to update them right there from within the app.
No.
Dude, it's my new favorite app. Of course, I spend so much time keeping my Mac up to date now, but there's so many things. Like, if you're a geek like me, you wind up downloading stuff and you don't realize that you need an update to an app until you launch it to use it. And then you don't want to wait to update it because it's like, well, I'm just launching it because I need to use it.
Yep.
Right. Yep. And so this makes sure I never run into that. I've been blown away by how well it works. It's so much fun. Yep. So Mac Updater is my pick.
This has been around for a long time, and I keep forgetting about it. I'm going to do it.
They made it a lot better this year.
Okay.
I had used it in the past and it just didn't stick, but now it sticks. So yeah, it's been our new favorite on Mac Geek Gab too. I mean, it is my favorite app. So
great pick. Great pick. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's on the App Store. Just download it, right? Or is it on the App Store?
I think you download it right from them.
I think it can't be. I think it can't be on the App Store, right? Yeah.
I think that's right. Yeah. But just go to MacUpdater.net.
It's too useful.
It's too good. It messes with your stuff. That's why. In a good way. In a good way. Andy Anako, pick of the week.
I'm setting up this new iPhone 11 for real deep soak testing. As a matter of fact, probably next week I'm going to switch my SIM card from my Android phone into the iPhone so I can use it as my primary for a month or two, which means that I'm not treating it like a hotel room. I'm trying to move into it as a home. And issue number one was going to be, how do I get media on there without having to have it either in a cloud service or in an iTunes library? It's like I've got the iTunes library of stuff that I just normally commonly have on my laptop, and then there's the stuff that's I've got a 256 gigabyte phone here. I've got a phone. My master library is about 120 gigabytes. I would like to have all of my music available on my phone without having to create a 120 gigabyte music library on my MacBook. Sometimes I've got like movie files I'd also like to put on there, again, without having to put a 7.1 gigabyte movie file that I recorded off my DVR into my laptop as part of the library. So that's why I installed Readdle, Documents by Readdle, Readdle. Still don't know how to pronounce that.
I always say Readle. You think it's Readdle?
I don't see.
They say Readle.
They say Readle?
Okay. They say Readle.
They built like a book reading app initially.
Yeah,
so it was originally reading.
Sherlock or something.
Yeah.
See, when I saw the extra D tricks me into thinking that they really want me to think that there's something about addle in there. Anyway, but
it's spelled Readdle. Let's just put it that way. Yeah.
But whether you have any sort of iOS device, whether it's an iPad, whether it's an iPhone, this is a great app that will just simply let you copy files from any desktop into this for the personal storage area of this app. So as a result, again, I've got for formal playlists and formal like music library stuff, I've got maybe a couple dozen albums in iTunes and sync to the phone, but I also have like every single album I own, every single track I own just copied into the phone via Readdle, which means that it's not quite as sophisticated as a regular music player, but it's smart enough to know that, oh, well, look, I see that you've got like a folder full of music files. I'm now going to turn myself into a music player and play them in sequence of what's inside the folder. It also supports a lot more file formats than you would probably get through iTunes, so that if you've got like a WebM file, if you've got some sort of an open, like a really great lossless file format that iTunes doesn't support yet, it will also play all that stuff. In addition to solving the problem of I've got a bunch of documents and files and information files and PDFs that I just want to have access to wherever I go, like the manuals to my camera, the manuals to whatever gear I'm carrying with me. I just like the fact that it's a simple, no fuss, just open iTunes, go into the sync panel, and drag it into Readdle's Readle. I keep alternating Readdle and Readle, and just drag it into Readle's documents hopper, and it will just simply find its way onto that thing. You can copy things from Dropbox. One of the best, a cheap app, but my goodness, is it super, super, super useful. I've had it on the iPad for a while, and it's been a while since I've had it on an iPhone. But I think it's even more superfluous on the suplendous on the iPhone.
Andy, I'm going to let you go because I know you got to get out there. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to evacuate the building.
Well, I hope the Boy Scouts like having a light set up in a MacBook, because I just got to flee with my phone right now.
Hey, when are you going to be on WGBH talking about the iPhone?
Probably Friday. I don't have a time yet, but as usual, check out my Twitter feed at Anatko, IHNATKO, for all such announcements.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
I have no idea how to use this. But Apple has released finally its AR Reality Composer. I have no idea what I'm doing with this, but I can create a horizontal, vertical image or face. You want to augment faces using the front camera? You can. Don't know how to use it. Don't know anything about it, but presumably you're smart enough to know. So it's there. It's free. It's finally out on the App Store. I think they were probably waiting for 13.1. Yeah, I don't know anything about it. Just play with it. Jim Dalrymple, give me music.
All right, here comes some music. So the band that I am recommending this week is called Crobot. It's CROBOT. So
is it like Cronuts?
This is just a classic hard rock band. That's it right there. And there's a song on there called Burn. And the first song of the album, it is just fantastic.
Nice.
And it's just plain hard rock, the kind of stuff I really like. Listen to the description on Apple Music. Sounding like a relic of an era when fuzz-drenched hard rock was delivered with greasy swagger and reckless abandon.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, my God.
It's because they're from so Pottsville, good. PA.
Yeah, baby. Listen to that.
Jim Dalrymple, we love you. LoopInsight.com. He is the man, the beard, the legend. Jim, we'll see you soon, okay?
All right.
Rock and roll, baby.
See you, Leo.
Thanks, Dave Hamilton, MacObserver.com. Anything you want to plug? You got podcasts galore, Dave.
Yeah, come if you want answers to your Apple questions. Come listen to Mac Geek Gab. We answer everybody's question, and we've been doing it for a
long time.
Too long, but
longer than we
we'll
have.
Keep doing it.
Yeah, keep up the good work, Dave.
Know.
Great to
Thanks,
have you
man.
on.
Yeah, it's fun.
Thanks, of course, to Andy as well. We do MacBreak Weekly every Tuesday right after iOS Today. That's supposedly 11 a.m. Pacific, between 11 and noon. Let's put it that way. 2 p.m. Eastern Time or 3 p.m. Eastern Time or, well, roughly 1700 UTC. Watch or listen live at twit.tv/live. You can also ask your Echo, hey, Echo, listen to Twit Live, and it'll play it. You can also go to our website and download copies of the show, twit.tv/MBW. Best thing to do, subscribe. That way you'll get every episode the minute it's available. Renee and Lori will be back next week. I will too. I thank you so much for being here. Now, my friends, it's time to get back to work because break time is over. Bye-bye.